Easy, you're about to say, I've got something to start us off with, and I hit the record button, and you just do nothing. Has your mind gone blank on your vacation? What's going on? Myself and Rachel. Rachel, how are we doing? Are interested to see what you just went blank there. What's going on in the holidays? You just
I was just taking a moment to appreciate the fact that I am a local legend over here.
How so?
Well, anyway, I went for 2 runs, Sean. I barely was moving. It was a shuffle. I went on a shuffle after a few cocktails, but because I ran the same direction 2 days in a row, I became a local legend on Strava here in Portaventura. And I'm quite proud of it.
Do you know why you became a local legend?
Oh, absolutely not. I just take these things as they come, it happens naturally.
Because most people go on holidays to relax.
Yeah.
After drinking their cocktails. So, most people have it right.
Control.
I think you're doing the vacation thing a bit wrong.
Rachel, I wouldn't really put you into most people on that one. I reckon you just go off and just handily do like a 20, 30K run in the middle of a 2-week holiday as well.
I don't think so. Maybe a cycle.
10 minutes sitting down, Rachel will be out running laps to become the local legend. I didn't even know. I just did it, and I was looking at my stats, and I was like, "You are a local legend." I was like, "What? I've been on 2 runs. How has that happened?" And I've been on a few other runs where obviously more people are running, but I went on a little bit of a different route, and became a local legend. I'm proud of it. I'm going to put it on my wall. But yeah, it is nice to be in the warm running. It's amazing how different your attitude is to sport when it's a little bit warmer in the mornings when you're going for a trot. So it is nice. It's a nice change. It's nice to be back running again. It's lovely.
Good and just having that bit of motivation, as you said, that sunshine or a bit warmer than what it is here and in a lot of Europe right now. So I definitely see why you're getting it.
Yeah. So while I'm on holidays, Rach, what have you got lined up for us?
Yeah. So keeping with that whole, positive, sunny kind of vibes that you have going on, and the rest of the jealous of. Today we have the most amazing guest on. Her name is Molly Hahn, or better known as Molly Kules. Molly is just fantastic to listen to. Her story is incredible, but she also puts a lot of work into mindfulness, and she is a professional cartoonist. So she's found a way to bring mindfulness into the world of sort of animation, illustration, all of that, and make, really recognize drawing as a way of relaxing. Obviously you're thinking, well, this is a women in sport podcast, so what has drawing and stuff got to do with it? But Molly, as most people know, and Molly definitely knows, that mindfulness, this whole kind of mental well-being, it does go hand in hand with sport. So Molly has been involved in running and cycling, and that's actually how we know each other. We do speak a lot about that. So we are teammates on Zwift, and she's just a wonderful, wonderful person to listen to, and I really, really hope that everyone enjoys this episode.
Yeah, it really is. It's something that's so important in sport. It's so important in life now, mindfulness. And when you can find a way to take something, I suppose you probably agree, it's probably something that seems complex to people. It's like, what's mindfulness, meditation, this, that, and the other. But when you can put it into a cartoon, it makes it so simple to just go, just take a second, appreciate the now and where you are, and take stock of your body and your mind and how you're doing. And not everything is perfect. And that's, I suppose we need to get that message across to more people, that, even being active and being mindful of yourself and your body and what you need is so, so important.
Exactly. It just shows you don't have to focus on one area of mindfulness. You can just start off, like Molly talks about how, this cartoon, like drawing her cartoons, just became part of her daily routine that just helped her to, be more mindful and just be present and aware. And I think it's just amazing that she's able to, as you said, make this connection for mindfulness just to everyday things.
Yeah, I think for a lot of people, mindfulness when we heard that word before and stuff, and meditation all was just like sitting cross-legged, just the hands out and just the humming, whereas doing an activity such as cartoon or anything at all can kind of just take your mind, just help you put you more relaxed at ease. So how you're putting all that into running and cycling, I'm not too sure, but there's only one way to find out, and that's just go straight into this week's episode of the Any Given Run Day podcast. Take it away.
So I am joined by the amazing Molly Hahn. Molly, thank you so much for coming on the Any Given Run Day podcast. I am so delighted to have this chat with you. How are you doing?
I'm doing really well. I'm so excited to be here and to finally meet you face to face. I'm so grateful for this opportunity to talk.
Well, I am just so excited to dive into the world of, I suppose, first of all, Molly as being Molly, but then also Molecules, the amazing cartoonist and everything. So I don't even know where to begin. But I suppose tell us a bit about yourself, what you do, and like, I suppose your passions. That would be a great place to start. What do you just love?
Oh my gosh. I am passionate about so many things. Drawing, obviously. Well, for those who don't know, I'm a professional cartoonist. I've been drawing my whole life, and I've been doing it professionally since the age of 19. And that means it's been 20 years this year. I also really love sport and training. I've been extremely active for most of my life. And I also really love to study about mindfulness, and my cartoon Buddha Doodles is a fun, whimsical twist on mindfulness. And yeah, so gosh, there's so much. Where to start? I'm originally from like a teeny town in Northern California. It's a very rural, like little place about 2 hours south of Oregon. And I grew up in the town is called Carlotta. And so I didn't really know a whole lot about the world until I went to college. And I was like one of the first people in my family to go to college. And my whole worldview changed, throughout the course of my college time. I was exposed to so many new ideas. I studied mathematics and global studies and animation, and I really blossomed as a person then. The Molly, when I was very little, was extremely shy and like very introverted, and got stage fright very easily, if you can believe that.
Yeah, so, I'm just here thinking, are you sure that Molly grew up to be this amazing person sitting in front of you? But that is just amazing what you were saying about how, when you're from a certain area, your whole life revolves around that area, like especially as a kid, as you're growing up, as your sort of mind is developing, you don't see more than what you're exposed to, especially back, like, let's say in the 80s and 90s, before the internet, before you could just Google anything or see different parts of the world just at the touch of your fingers. Like, you really were limited to what people told you or what you read, things like that.
Yeah. And I grew up really poor, like food stamp family. At the end of the month, there wasn't a lot of food in the fridge. So you're just waiting for that next check. And I had all my clothes were like thrift shop clothes. And, I felt really self-conscious because of that. And that I think I said I was the first person in my family to go to college. I basically paid my own way. I had a little bit of a scholarship, but I was always working, like constantly. And my outlet, really outside of academics, which actually struggled quite a bit because I have some learning difficulties like dyslexia and some other things. And so my outlet was running, like that was my number one, and then cycling. But and also a little bit about my childhood, because it also informs why I'm so passionate about sport, is that unfortunately grew up in a very unstable, unpredictable, and violent home. And I never really knew what was going to happen. there was just so much, like I said, it was just unpredictable. And I developed a rare blood disorder, like around 10 years old. So I spent quite a bit of time in the hospital, and the disease I had was kind of similar to hemophilia. If you know, like you can't clot, like your blood can't clot. It's called ITP. And basically, like the platelets in your body, there's not enough to clot or prevent severe bruising. And there's a spectrum, right, of this disease. Some people get it, their platelet count goes down a little bit. Maybe they have a treatment and they go into remission. Mine was on the really severe end, where my platelets went down so low that like I had to just like be immobilized in the hospital, because they're like, at this level, you might have a spontaneous brain hemorrhage and possibly die. And so a little kid in the hospital contemplating my mortality as a child really affected me, because I was thinking, like, I just hope I make it. Like, will I survive? And eventually I did go into remission. Thank gosh, it took many, many years. And when I was 16, I was finally able to be an active kid. Like, I was healthy enough to finally be able to participate in sport, because I couldn't.
And such a gap, like that 6 years of, when, a lot of kids, and I suppose when you're still that young, you don't have the gender gap between males and females in sport. You really missed out on all of that. And like, we know 10-year-olds, like what 10-year-old do you know that doesn't have a scratch or bruise from something? But obviously you had to be so careful, because one deep cut, you could bleed out because you can't clot. Yeah, because clotting is what stops us bleeding out when we scratch ourselves. That's the role of the platelets.
Yeah, it was a really scary thing. And then when I went into remission and I started playing, sports, I really felt like I was given a second chance at life. Like, I developed this worldview that like every day could be your last day. So do what you love and be a good person. And I just really took life by the horns, and I tried out for the track team. I had no idea what I was doing. I loved to run. And then there was this team time trial, right? Or a time trial for the 400. And I just wrote it as I'm riding so much. I just ran it as fast as I could. And I got put on the varsity team. I had one of the best times. I was usually the last person on the last, relay pass off. I was usually the fourth person that brought it home. I won a ton of heats. And I just was like, oh my gosh, like there's an athlete in me, and brought me so much joy, especially because not only was I just coming out of this disease, right? But also like my mom left when I was in high school. She had severe mental illness. And so unfortunately, my other biological parent did too. And I'll refer to them as biological parents because I separated myself from them. Lots of violence and abuse, unfortunately, just not the right people that you want in your life. So I didn't receive the love that I needed. And I didn't get, have the safety also. So I really turned in, I became my own parent. And then sport was a way for me to feel confident, and like it brought me so much joy that I just didn't stop. I have not stopped unless I get injured or I have to have a rest day. But I have not stopped. And that worldview continues to guide me, although I'm not as obsessed about thinking about mortality as I used to. Studying mindfulness and Buddhism, that's a very integral part of, we're only here for a short amount of time. Be a kind person, service is very important to me. That's where my, the cartoon that I make, Buddha Doodles, is how I'm of service, helping others, promoting mental health awareness, compassion. And the art also has served as therapy. So my day job, quote unquote, is doing what I love. I've built a whole business around it. I've been doing this for so long, running my own business for the last 8 years, but I have to have sport. Like when I was in California, I was running in the mountains up to 18 miles, like in 90-degree heat. I would try to do, I know, like I was cycling like crazy. I was a waitress. I loved being a waitress because I was moving and I got to be theatrical. And sometimes I think if I actually had measured it, well, it depends, but I think I spent some days doing more stuff active. Like I was doing dance classes 1 to 5 times a week, but I was still building my business. And if I don't have that outlet, I get very sad because it's a way to, like many people, keep your mental health going strong, right? To self-care. And if I don't have like Swift or running or, I just become very sad and depressed. So.
And like, it is so important. And I think especially over lockdown, the whole world has gone through this pandemic. So like, while, your story is incredible, it really shaped you, your upbringing. I think anyone who hasn't experienced that has maybe felt a kind of despair with COVID. And I do think a lot of people, just like you, when you were going through all that, you turned to sport. I think a lot of people have also turned to sport to help them deal with their day-to-day, just getting through the day-to-day life. And like sport, there's a reason why when you talk to anyone about mental health or things you can do to improve your mental health, they always say exercise, even if it's just a 30-minute walk a day. You don't have to be like me or you, who's absolutely crazy about running and cycling. Like I lose track some weeks of what I do. You don't have to be that level. I think just even a walk, just that you're pushing your muscles, you're making them move, you're getting the oxygen flow around the body. It really improves and it releases the endorphins. Exercise is a very good endorphin releaser.
Absolutely. Yeah. And 20 minutes of walking a day, it can make a really big impact. Like if you are struggling with depression, it can be hard. I mean, I've been there just to like take a shower and like going outside and walking and breathing the fresh air and connecting to your senses. Like you don't have to do crazy things. You could dance to like a song for 5 minutes. Like when I do my coffee dances for Instagram, that's literally like when I'm waking up and I'm just like, this is so much fun. I feel so much better.
Just take a step back and please explain the coffee dance, because this brightens up my morning every morning. And I know you were unwell last week and you skipped today. And I actually went, oh, there's no coffee dance. So please explain to everybody what your coffee dance is.
Okay, first of all, I was inspired. Do you know Jonathan Van Ness from Queer Eye for the Straight Guy?
I probably would know him to see, but I actually haven't watched it.
He's a TV personality. He makes me so happy in general. I love him. And he does a coffee dance like every morning. And for like a year, I was just like totally transfixed. I was like, I can't wait to see his next one. And I was like, why don't I do my own? And so I restarted my personal Instagram account this just a few months ago. I had taken it down a couple of years ago. I was going through some things, I just needed to sort of back off from social media, but then I restarted it and I was like, so excited to like share about my life and, my sports. But then I was like, I'm going to try doing a coffee dance. So basically I wake up in the morning, I brew my coffee and I put on a song that I really like. And I do like a reel and I lip sync and dance and I try to make it funny and silly. And it's like a 15 to 60 second thing I put up on Instagram. I was doing it a little more regularly, but the last 2 weeks I kind of fell off the boat. I did one to like MC Hammers, You Can't Touch This, on Wednesday, but next week I plan to do more. So yeah, it's like how I start my day some days. And then I just feel so happy. It engages like my brain and I feel joyful. And then I'm like, woo, like I'm ready to do my day. So I'm like so happy it makes other people happy too.
And it is just so much fun to watch you, because it puts it like, it must be so much fun for you, but it definitely puts a smile on my face. Just seeing, you know, we choose when we get up in the morning, we can choose how we start our day. And you choose to start it with laughter, with positivity, with a coffee, which I think is very important.
Oh my God. I love coffee.
We might need to save a coffee chat for another time.
I just love it. I just love it. And yeah, and then I started getting into doing like fun stuff, promoting the races for Zwift community, or for the Zwift community, and also for our team rave. And then the Zwift community live broadcasters, Nathan and Dave, had pointed out on one of the broadcasts about my coffee dances and the dancing. And then I was like, okay, I have something to live up to now. I got to do more. So it's kind of like become this thing that's like, it's just like this unexpected fun, you know, thing I'm just playing with. And I love having Zwift, like, of course, for the sport part, and we can talk more about that in a little bit. With my other cartoon, Buddha Doodles, it's really not about me, and it's an extension of me, right? It's about the art and the messages, whimsical twist on mindfulness, these little gems of wisdom and, you know, reminders of gratitude. But it's not where I put my wig on. I wear wigs during my races now. Like, it's not where I dance to rave music, because I'd be doing that anyway if I wasn't Instagramming about it. But Zwift has given me this opportunity to just let myself shine through, which is very liberating, because I used to be so like concerned about like, you know, how do I be Molly plus the cartoon? How do I separate those? And now I feel like, okay, I got my Zwift world where I got my rave on for Team Rave. And then got the little Buddha Doodles world where I'm, you know, putting out the cartoons. So I really love that.
Amazing. It's just interesting what you were saying about, you know, deactivating your personal account and then reactivating it, because I think so many people say, you know, social media can be really toxic at times, but I do think there's a lot of positives with it. Like, I know myself when I'm using it, and like my usage of Instagram is either I'm all in, I could post a few times a week, or you mightn't hear from me for a few months. Like, I can be very hot and cold, but I think it can be so positive, because when you're using it, you have to remember that most people are giving out the best version of themselves online. And there's nothing wrong with that. I think people are always like, oh, you know, everyone just gives out that positive thing, and people can kind of look on that real negatively. But if you just take it for what it is, I'm showcasing the best version of me. It makes me stop and think about the good things in my life. It makes me appreciate what's actually going on in my life from, you know, just a different perspective, a real positive perspective. And I think it sounds like you've definitely found that when you reactivated your account. It's like, it's not all of me, it's the part of me that I'm going to showcase that's positive, that's bubbly, it's liberating. And you just look to be having the best time.
Oh my God, thank you. I agree. I mean, think about it. Of course, it's a highlight reel for some people, right? Like, it's important to remember that. But for me, and I think about it, like, if you're going to put a beautiful piece of art out there, right? It's an extension of yourself. It's an extension of joy, and maybe it helps somebody. And that's how I think about my social media. Is I'm promoting Zwift because I love it, and I hope to inspire others to maybe get on Zwift or think about dancing a little bit to their favorite song, whatever, you know, like we're talking about how important exercise is for mental health. And yeah, I have bad days, and I'm not afraid to talk about them. And sometimes I'll write about them for, you know, in my newsletters for my community. You know, I definitely, we all go through things, right? But, and, you know, like I was saying, I grew up in a really tough environment. So many other people, and I put that out there, you know, I'm okay with people knowing that. I hope that if I share a little bit of what might seem like darkness, other people can also see that. So it's a balance, right? I mean, social media can be a very positive thing. And of course it can be toxic, but I've always, you know, I always thought about it like, I get to put out like my art and good energy. And then like, I hope to be a part of people's day in some way. Right. So I love it too.
And this is going to bring me straight into talking about your Buddha doodles, because, well, I actually have one question before we even go in any further, because obviously on Buddha doodles, you refer to yourself as molecules. Now, as a science teacher, I need to ask, is there a science connection to the reason you chose that name?
100%.
Yay!
So my little creative brain back in the day in elementary school, during science class, whenever I heard the word molecule, I go, what? Because it sounded to me like molecule. I was like, what? And it happened so many times. And I love science too. Oh my gosh, especially like neuroscience, you know, theory of mind stuff. But yeah, it came from that. And I was like, that's really cute. I think I'm going to make that my nickname. And so I gave myself this nickname, and eventually it turned into like my sort of pen name. You know, I'm still Molly, but it always like I remember when I would go to Comic Cons when I was younger, and I would show my work, and I'd say like, and I molecules, and people would laugh, and some people didn't get it, and I'd explain it to them, and then they would laugh. And so I built that immediate emotional, funny connection right away with people, and it still makes me laugh, and it's still my name. I call myself Molecules, and I love it. And or people call me Molly, but yeah, it's inspired by that science.
I love that, especially being, you know, my inner science nerd is like, yes, love it.
I'm such a nerd.
I mean, I'm science and maths like you. I also studied maths in college, and I just love maths and science. And
Me too.
I suppose you can look at the whole world. Like, they reckon that maths is literally the foundation. And then from maths, you then get the sciences. And the sciences are just building blocks that explain the world. I think maths comes first, because most people don't realize that maths is just the language that explains why things are happening, why things are interacting. And then there's physics, and then chemistry, and then biology, and then obviously the earth and social sciences as well. But we are not here to talk about science. People are probably like, no, I hated maths in school. I wasn't.
I know. Do you remember take the derivatives of blah, 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 and integers and negative numbers? That's a different podcast. People,
especially runners. Every runner can convert from a mile to kilometers, I think.
I just started to be able to.
And okay, we've already even mentioned this yet, but you are an American living in Europe. You need to know your kilometers. You need to know the metric system.
Oh man, I would ride on Zwift with the old, the American units, but then I heard on a podcast that you get more drops if you switch it to kilometers. I don't know if that's BS, but I was like, oh no, I want to level up. So if I do it in kilometers, and then I had no idea, okay, yeah, I did run the 400 meters, but to me, that's just like one lap. That's my
quarter
reference.
Mile. Yeah.
For me, I kind of get where the finish line is. Not yet so much. I tend to sprint too soon or too late.
You're learning. Go out with was he on Instagram now next week? You out with a measuring stick or one of those trundle wheels, measuring out meters. Okay, now what is this?
I love that.
I love it. Okay, anyway, back from our little tangent there. I was just about to start asking you about Buddha doodles, because obviously you know, as you said, this is all about, you know, mindfulness, positive energy. And like anyone who looks at this Instagram page, it's literally, if you search Buddha Doodles on Instagram, you will see it. It's just so lovely scrolling through these different animations, these different cartoons, the positive messages you put into them. Like, please just talk to us about this amazing world that is Buddha Doodles.
Well, it all started almost about 10 years ago, actually. So I'm celebrating the 10th year anniversary of the cartoon in about a week and a half. And
congratulations.
Thank you. It's amazing. It's gone by very fast. I was like, wow, 10 years. But so I, like I said, I started cartooning professionally when I was 19. I worked at the university newspaper. I had a comic strip. I did editorial cartoons and I got paid. I was like, whoa, this is amazing. And a light bulb went off, even though like I was doing my academic stuff. I knew once I was done with college, it took me 5 years, by the way, I was a part-time student. I was like, I'm going to do this for a living. And then I moved to LA. I had a couple of internships in my field. I couldn't hang in LA. It was just too much stress. Really, I couldn't cope. So I moved back to Santa Barbara where I went to school. It's a beautiful place. And I started waitressing and cartooning on the side. And I self-published a few kids' books. Like I said, I'd go to Comic-Cons, show my work. I did like little group shows in Santa Barbara. And so I was putting my work out there in a local way. And then I started going to Comic-Cons and putting it out there. And in all the time I was freelancing and waitressing on the side, like I said. And I had actually started putting my art out on the internet in 2001, like pre-everything, pre-MySpace, maybe it was Friendster days, I don't know. But
Facebook even, was likes of Facebook even, no, Facebook was 2004, wasn't it? So like you really are pre it all.
Yeah, I started on Facebook. We were one of the universities that got to beta test it. So
amazing.
I've been on it since it started. Crazy. So I had a little webpage at molecules.com. The domain's not active right now, but I plan to bring it back. So don't go there. It's just sort of like, I don't know, up maintenance thing. But so fast forward to 10 years ago, I quit my waitressing job. I was freelancing. I was a background artist for about a year and a half or two for Mike Gordon. He's a well-known children's book illustrator. He is best known in the United Kingdom, where he's from, but he lived in Santa Barbara and he became my mentor. So I was digitally painting his backgrounds. And I got a lot of experience doing that, being on deadline. Like we had a book due almost every 2 or 3 weeks. I think we worked on.
Oh, wow. So that is
30 bucks. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then a contract fell through when there was sort of this recession, I think. Yeah, there was a recession. We lost a contract and I had, 2010. Why did it even begin? So yeah, I had that freelance work, but there was a lot of things around me kind of falling apart at the time. Like I said, that we lost the contract and my relationship I was in for 6 years, unfortunately, was not working out. And it was very obvious that that was not going to continue. And I was very desperate for money because the contract had fallen through for my freelance work. And so I was like, okay, I'll apply to grad school. And then for like psychotherapy or, psychology. And then I didn't even get to the admissions process because they said like, we can't get your, what's it called? Your grades. It's like a resume
transcript.
Yes, it was locked because I had defaulted on a loan. I didn't know I hadn't consolidated. So it was like, work is falling apart, relationship is ending, don't know how I'm going to make money, and I can't get into grad school. So I kind of had this sort of, I guess they call it dark night of the soul. Like I was not sure what's going to happen. Everything's falling apart. And I literally was like on the floor in my studio, like sobbing. And then I like had this idea inspired by something in therapy that my teacher or my therapist had encouraged me to consider mindfulness. And so in that moment, I was like, okay, I think I'll finally listen. Because I was like, mindfulness, what? And then I had this funny idea, just random, I mean, that's how it is with the creative process. You have a thought, it comes up. And I was like, I'm going to doodle like a little monk, and I'm going to put a little caption on it for myself. And it's going to be something I do in the morning, like my coffee dances, to start my day in the right direction. Because I had no idea where I was going. It was like 30 years old. I had no idea what was going to happen. And so I thought the very least I can just do this little practice each day. And like I said, I've always posted my work online. And I just decided, okay, I'll try Tumblr. Never did Tumblr before. I'll post my cartoon on Tumblr. And I did one every like 2 a week. I worked up to 4 a week, and then I worked up to 5 a week as my daily practice continued. And I started noticing like, oh, people are following this. And I called it Buddha Doodles because I thought it was kind of like, it just came into my head. Like, I love words like molecules. I just get like these random funny ideas. It sounds cool. It's cute. And so I started getting followers, and then I noticed it was like 100, 200, 300, and then it just started to go viral. And I was like, wow, I didn't even intend for this to happen. It wasn't like, oh, I'm going to make a cartoon that goes viral. If anything, I was like, I feel like I'm at the end of my cartooning career at that point, because I had tried everything and I wasn't making money doing it. I did that for 2 years. I gave hundreds of cartoons away for free to help others and myself. And then around 2011 is when it started. 2013, I got a scholarship to like this online marketing business school through Marie Forleo. She's a business coach and a life coach. And I was like, I'm just going to take this information that I'm learning and apply it to opening a retail shop for Buddha Doodles. Like I said, this was 2 years in. I wasn't thinking about making products, but my fans started asking for art prints. And so I was like, okay, I'll try that. I'll make some prints. And then I noticed that, oh, wow, like got some good sales there. Let's try something else. So I actually would work on and design everything myself, one product at a time. Then I moved on to making gratitude journals. And then I moved on to making blankets. And then I made little sculptures. But I took everything very slow because I wanted everything I made to be a reflection of like, basically the spirit of Buddha Doodles. I wanted it to be mindful. I didn't want to rush through anything. So I slowly built my business.
Sorry for cutting you off. You wanted to do it for the right reasons. You wanted to, like it's very easy to get excited when things start working out because, that what you just described, after having, after your childhood, things going amazing, and then suddenly to hit this, what felt like a wall and not really see the way out. It really sounds like you were just like never taking it for granted that I'm going to do this and I'm going to give it my best and I'm going to remember why I'm doing this. It definitely, it seems that it's always carried through the message that you're trying to send with it.
Yes. And promoting art as therapy, like I've been very vocal about having PTSD, which I'm not struggling with anymore, but my healing journey as a young adult started when I was about 20 years old. I started going to therapy and I still am doing therapy. And my art has always played a really important role in my healing process. All the kids' books I wrote, a lot of the art I do, and Buddha doodles came from that. Really, is like, I'm going to study Buddhism and mindfulness, and I'm going to see how this might help me, and also in turn help others. And so, I continue making them. I'm still making new doodles. There's this cute little elephant named Udi and a monk named Zed, and this other girl, Ariana. They're kind of like the star characters now. I like to put little reminders of like, compassion, mindfulness, gratitude, little, wisdom gems in a sense. And these really are kind of like glimmers. Like, you can go for a walk and pass by so many beautiful things that you don't even notice. But if you slow down, and mindfulness is really just a particular way of paying attention. It's just like, I'm going to feel my feet as I walk. I'm going to connect to my breath. I'm going to listen. It's quite simple, but it's quite difficult actually.
Yeah.
And so I like to call these cartoons little glimmers. Maybe I hear a conversation that inspires me, or I read something, like I love reading about mindfulness, like I've said, or I learn something in therapy, or, like I said, conversations, especially in being in nature, really inspire me. So yeah, the spirit of Buddha Doodles continues on, and I'm so grateful that it became what it is. It's definitely bigger than me. It's its own thing, really.
And if it's okay with you, I'm just going to read the message out on one of your most recent Buddha Doodles from your Instagram page. And it just says, it's just, sometimes it's okay to go slow. So they're the kind of small messages. I think that one, really captures what you just said, that, it's fine to be busy. It's fine to be all that, but sometimes it's okay to go slow. That can just be what you said about connecting to your senses. I think a lot of time people think mindfulness is all about clearing your mind and getting it blank. I think that is kind of the misconception about mindfulness, that it's about having this blank, like, mind. Your brain is free, it's clear, there's nothing going on there. But really, it's not. It's about being aware. Okay, my mind is a jumble. I'm aware that it's a jumble. And as you said, connecting to not only the mind, but your sense. What are you smelling? What can you feel? What can you hear? It's just about being present more so than being empty and blank.
Absolutely. It is a misconception that meditation and mindfulness is about having a totally blank brain, which is impossible. We create thoughts, tens of thousands of them a day. We have no control over when thoughts come and go. The practice of mindfulness is simply being aware of, like, oh, I'm caught in this story about how angry I am about this one thing going wrong in a relationship or some sort, right? Then you're like, oh, I'm hooked. Okay, I'm going to just like breathe, connect to my senses. I see that I'm hooked into this story. Maybe you get drawn back into it, but it's really the awareness. And meditation can come in so many forms. Not everyone is suited for sitting meditation. And that's okay. Some brains just don't work that way. You can meditate or practice mindfulness on a walk, like I was saying. You can cook and be like, smell the flavors, like slow down, cut the zucchini, wash the lettuce, smell the soap when you're cleaning up. Like, I'm more kinesthetic. So practicing mindfulness, is for me is more it's just day-to-day life, like doing the laundry, slowing down, like you said. Except if you're in a race. Or like,
unless your legs have just gone from underneath you.
And to be honest, I don't think I can practice mindfulness yet during a race. I'm just like trying not to die.
My job it's like, I am aware that my legs are burning, and I'm aware that the quicker I get to the finish line, the quicker this pain is over.
I'm mostly just like, I don't want to feel anything right now.
Hey, I don't want to hear you. I don't want to see you. Yeah, no, I feel that. I definitely am aware of all those racing sensations that happen. I just want to kind of, this is just me jumping right back, because you did mention at the start that you had, some learning difficulties. And just when you mentioned there that you are more of a kid, I always say this word wrong, even though I use it a lot, a kinesthetic, like mindfulness person. Would you have found that you were very kinesthetic in your learning as well? Because
oh my gosh, yes.
I think most people know what dyslexia is. Most people, that's probably one of the most common learning disabilities that people know around the world. But maybe explain what kinesthetic learning is and what you meant by kind of that kinesthetic mindfulness. I think you already did a good enough job of
Oh, that's such a great question. Well, in the context of learning something, I'll give you an idea about how difficult it is for me to read. I have a book by Hahn, who's a very popular meditation teacher. And I got it 6 or 7 years ago, and I'm literally only 40 pages in. And I read line by line, and my Buddha doodles actually are a way for me to learn. So I'll read something that just immediately, like an image, I think in pictures, it just pops in my mind, and then I draw it, and then I remember what I learned through in that moment. Like I can recall things that I learned through pictures I draw. And I started doing that when I was really little. I was always doodling in class, which like made me look like I wasn't paying attention, but in fact, I was actually paying more attention. So my hand moving is a kinesthetic experience. Another example of learning, not that long ago, I think it was about 6 years ago, some of my friends started this really cool adventure program where they took their boat out like a trimaran, and they were visiting different islands, like off the coast of California and Mexico, and eventually over to the Galapagos. And a couple of my friends were in this adventure club, but I didn't know how to swim. I was terrified of the water, but you can't of course you can't intellectually learn how to swim, but I basically just had to dive in literally. And then for me, I was able to learn quite quickly. Once I got over my fear, I learned how to swim really quickly. What's some more examples of kinesthetic learning? Swift, really. Like you don't really know how to, the strategies come with experience, right? So but I think that's for everybody. I would say the best example is my need to doodle. Like whenever there's a recon video out that Sherpa Dave gives. I love his videos, by the way. A recon video, for those that are listening, is basically a video summarizing the next race for a certain kind of race. I have to doodle and slow down like the video and write and draw, because I can't just sit there. I don't get anything from just sitting. I have to write it out, and then I have to recon. I have to do it myself, and then I look at my doodles, and it's kind of it takes me longer sometimes to get certain things, but I feel like once I get it, I'm just like, I got it. So I hope that makes sense.
It absolutely does. And it's so important that things like dyslexia or any other learning difficulties are spoken about and people are aware of them. Because you think if you're like a young kid, a teenager in school, and you have dyslexia, maybe you don't realize it, and you just think that unfortunately, students tend to think they're stupid if they can't get it straight away, or if they can't keep up. But as you just highlighted, it's not that you're stupid, it's just you listening to it is not helpful. It's not going in or being processed by your brain in such a way that makes you understand it and remember it. And I love the Benjamin Franklin quote, "Tell me and I forget, teach me and I remember, involve me and I learn." It's that whole idea.
Yes, absolutely.
Being active in your learning.
I have to be in it Like, I just have to be, even if I don't know much or anything about whatever I'm learning, I have to just be in it. And I learn socially, like if somebody's good at the thing that I want to learn and they're helping me out it in the actual process of learning this thing, then I'm like, okay, it's an emotional connection, it's social, and I'm moving. So that doesn't happen when you're sitting in an auditorium that's dimly lit with 500 people in a global studies or political science class. I'm just like, no matter how much sleep I get, I used to pass out in class. That's what, like, I don't know what that is, but like, I was trying to stay awake, but sitting there with like the sort of droning lecture voice, I would fall asleep, and then it makes you look lazy, but you're not. Your brain just is totally being either understimulated or overstimulated in a way that's like not helping you to learn at all. So
no, and I think definitely like secondary schools or high schools are definitely better now for, you know, incorporating a wider range of teaching methodologies, like how you teach. But I do think that when you go to university or college or further education, it is still very much what we call chalk and talk. I'm talking, I'm writing, you're reading, listening, writing. And
then regurgitated.
Yes.
They're just expecting you to basically regurgitate exactly what that was taught in class. And I get that for some subjects, and it's necessary. It's a system, but it's so limited. And that's why I did not perform great. And I almost got kicked out of college. I was performing so poorly academically, even though I was going to like study sessions, and I just couldn't write the papers fast enough. I couldn't read the books fast enough. I always needed extra time, and I just fell behind. And I had to like appeal to stay in. And I talked about my learning difficulties, but I didn't know I had dyslexia. And so I was able to stay in, but then I was like, okay, I need to go to half-time student. And like we were saying, it's okay to go slow. I went really slow through college.
I was longer getting through it than you were. So. And I think when you think back to like 20 years ago, you probably didn't have access to like the audio books that you have now. You couldn't pick up your textbook and listen to someone read it to you and pause it and go back. Like you really had to read it yourself, and that took a long time. But you actually had something really interesting on your personal Instagram during the week, that different font that's specially designed, I don't know if it's specially designed for people with dyslexia, but you reckon it definitely helps with your dyslexia.
Yeah, it's actually designed for people with dyslexia, and it's called Open Dyslexic, and it's at opendyslexic.org. And everyone's dyslexia is different, so it might not work for some people, but it really helps me to use it like when I'm writing, or you can actually change your web browser to use the font because it's weighted. What that means is like, it's not just a J with the same line. It's not just like the same width through the whole thing. It like has towards the bottom, it kind of like gets a little bit wider, which kind of weights I know it sounds funny, but that's the best way I can describe it. Yeah, it's thicker. And then there's variations in each letter. So it's not like just, when you read like a serif font, I have like a weird font when I answer my emails. I use like the console font because it looks like code, like the font for coding. I can read that better, but like I said, things pop out, things blur. I miss things. And also, I don't know if it's happened in this podcast. I think I'm better at catching it, but I'll like say things backwards. Like I'll put like the end of the sentence at the beginning, or I'll say a word that sounds the same or conceptually is the same. And they'll be like, did you know you just said bridge? I said, no, I said badge. You just said bridge. I'm like, no, I said badge. It's like that.
Yeah. You would actually love the Irish language. And the way sentences are structured in the Irish language is backwards. So kind of like how you take Star Wars, how Yoda speaks, that kind of backward, the Irish language does, if you format your sentences correctly, they should be like, it should nearly sound backwards if you do a direct translation.
Writing on Swift, I am.
Yeah, exactly. So you never know, you might go on to study Irish and be better than most of us.
I like that. I love that.
Yeah, it is very interesting. It's because Irish, it's not one of the languages that was derived from Latin. You'll be a lot of European languages came from Latin.
What is Irish derivative?
I think Irish is more, now I'm probably going to get this wrong, which is so bad, but more Celtic.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that difference. That's so interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Celtic.
So there you go. I'm going to Google it now, just in case I said that wrong. Okay, looking here, I was correct about the Irish being derived from the Celtic language, and that, I don't know if you know, but Celts actually originated in mainland Europe, and Scottish and Welsh and some of these languages are also derived from Celtic, compared to other languages, which all, have some maybe Latin in them. Like, in English, we use a lot of Latin words. We just incorporate them into our day-to-day language.
Interesting.
There you go. We're getting maths, we're getting science, we're getting language. I think we'll return to sport for a bit.
Oh yeah, what's this all? How did we meet?
Yes, exactly. How did we meet?
Well, there's this little program or game that called Zwift. It's a massive multiplayer online cycling game that you can ride in all these beautiful worlds. It's called Zwift. And basically, you have a bicycle and a smart trainer or a smart bike, and the Bluetooth or the ANT Plus connection hooks up to your computer, Apple TV, laptop, PC, whatever. And it can read the information from your pedaling, cadence, power. Some trainers, it has like automatic resistance for when you're gearing up or down. And it's an amazing game that's been around for like 7 years or more, 10.
Yeah. No, I do think if you ask most people, they'll tell you it's only around since lockdown began. Yeah. I certainly didn't hear about it before lockdown. And now everyone seems to be on it. Sure, here at the start of the pandemic, you couldn't get a smart trainer. Like I got my one just over a year ago. And I think it was like one of the only ones left in the store. Like they just were like gold dust. It was insane.
And then I did not discover Zwift until the Olympics this year, the end of the Olympics. So it's like not even like 2.5 months.
I know.
It's crazy. And we met, for everyone listening, because we're both on Team Rave, which is one of the most fun.
No, the most fun.
The most fun
e-racing sports team out there. Like, let's just be honest, like it is.
Absolutely. We're serious about having fun and we're serious about racing. So the fun part is so important. And everyone on the team is so welcoming and supportive and nice. And that's how Rachel and I met, was because we've ridden some races together.
And I think that really sums up our team, like what you just said there about, it's so important to have fun. And like, while we love sport, we've talked about the benefits from it from a mental health point of view. Like, you just can't beat the fun aspect and the community. Because you moved to Denmark. How long is it since you moved to Denmark?
Officially got my residence permit like exactly 3 years ago, but I started visiting 4 years ago.
Excellent. And you were saying that even there, in a completely new place, like you are literally the other side of the world from California. I'm sure it couldn't be more different from Denmark to, we are talking Denmark in Europe, because there is a Denmark in the States somewhere as well, if I'm not.
That's true. Yes.
We are actually talking about Denmark in mainland Europe. And I know for you, reaching out and finding the community on Zwift was such a big thing for, you know, being away from like any friends that you had in the States. And obviously you moved because of your husband. But talk to me about that community feeling of Zwift and what that has given you.
Oh my gosh. It's literally in the last 2.5 months, my life has completely changed. Like, one of the things I miss most about California is dancing with my friends, like in dance classes, surfing, swimming, outdoors. Like, it's beautiful weather all of the time. Running in the mountains like a crazy lady for hours. And there's no mountains here. And like I said, a huge part of my life was sport and sharing sport and dancing and other things with friends. And I'd lost that coming here. I'm rebuilding it slowly, but the culture here is different. And I've gotten used to it. I'm very outspoken and an enthusiastic, energetic person. I'll just like chat anybody up. Like, you could do that in California, wherever you're at the coffee shop, Trader Joe's, you know, or wherever, supermarkets. It's part of the culture that I miss. So I've really pulled myself back like a lot. Like, I went from volume 11 to like -1 because I was like, wow, everyone's so quiet here. But because I got a cute dog, everybody loves my dog in the neighborhood. It's helped me to sort of break that barrier, and I am more myself now. But I do miss my friends. I do miss the nature. But you know, I'm a bit sad I didn't even know about Zwift during the lockdown. But I was just like training anyway, doing other things by myself. So got pretty lonely. You know, it's very, very different experience here. I am making friends slowly, but it's just different. It's just, you know, I used to be able to walk out of my apartment downtown and I could get caught up in some adventure. Hey, let's go surf, or what are you doing later? Let's go to the hip hop class or whatever. And it's not like that. And that was so hard because I'd like, okay, there's a bakery here. There's more development happening now. There's new shops, but you can't just go out and like have sort of this sort of whimsical day.
But then also, if you're there, you know, you said your residency only came through 3 years ago. 2 of those years have been in restrictions. So even for the most sociable person in the world, the last 2 years, you really have had to limit your social interactions, as they say. I've been in this social distancing to
I've been in this teeny little house, not a teeny house. We have a nice house. Like, houses in Denmark are like really big, especially in rural areas where they're more affordable. I'm used to living in like a shoebox in California. So I have like this cute little studio in the back of the house and in the garage. And so I have a lot of room. And when I found Zwift in August, it brought me back to that thing I've been missing, which is I can go on Zwift any time of day and there's something going on. It's like that metaphor for walking outside my apartment. I don't have to do much. And so there's always a chat going on our Discord for Team Rave. There's always somebody asking, are you available for this race? There's great conversations in the lounge channel, and everything is just, and meeting you and connecting with so many of the girls and still getting to know the girls. Like, I am so much happier of a person now, and that sort of that hole has been filled by Zwift.
Which is amazing. And I do think it's one of the reasons so many people flock to it. And then, like, on our team, there are the most incredible women from all over the world. So no matter what time of day you are awake at, someone else in the world on our channel is awake and Zwifting at that time.
I love the community, like Swift Community Live, Nathan and Dave Toll, and all the broadcasting that they do. They're such an important part of building the community and supporting all of the writers and making it fun. Like I had no idea like how amazing this could be. Like when I found Swift, I was just like, first of all, I have to say something. I got a spin bike, right? A Schwinn IC8. Because I was like, I miss spin classes. And then I saw on the description, like, works with Ruby and Zwift. And I was like, what? What's that? And so I checked out Ruby, which I kind of didn't, sorry, Ruby, but I was like, this is like Google Maps. And I feel like I'm just going millimeters. Yeah. Then I looked at Swift and then I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. Like, what? And so I started writing and I was like, dang, I'm good. Like, look at my watts. And then I was like doing off the map and like Rafa 100. And I was like, dude, like I'm crushing it. I'm getting all the jerseys and like beating the dudes and passing people. But then I was like, I read somewhere that pro athletes average like at least have 300 watts, like that's their, like they ride at that or higher, probably higher. And I was like, I don't think I'm a pro athlete. And I started like thinking, well, maybe I am, but maybe I'm not. And I discovered that the power is totally blown out and over exaggerated on the smart bike. And so I got so sad. I was like, boom. And then I would like follow Kristen Kolchinski on her races and be like, I'm like a Kristen Kolchinski. Yeah. But then I was like, oh, so I did a bunch of research on how do you make your Schwinn IC8 accurate. So I bought a power meter, a Ferraro Asioma, because I started feeling so self-conscious, like, oh my God, like, I don't want to be saying like I'm cheating. So I was like, I put the pedals on. I know, that's too bad, isn't it? But so now I have accurate data. I like called the company. I had them check my power meter all the way from Italy where it's originated because I was like, I have to get exact data. So they confirmed your data is correct. And so that's part of my journey is like, oh man, if I knew about Swift, I would have gotten this bike. I would have gotten this trainer. So I had to like adapt my spin bike for the game. And that was kind of a journey because it's like, what's all this tech stuff? Because there's a lot of tech stuff. You have to learn it first. Yeah. And I was like, this is all I could think about. But now I'm good. I got my power meter.
Yes, and you are flying it in the races.
I'm all right. I'm doing all right.
I'm more than okay. Well, Molly, I just want to say it was such a pleasure to talk to you today. I have loved every minute of this. I would talk to you all day. We will have to do this again. There's no might, there's no maybe.
Absolutely.
We'll absolutely do this again. But thank you for coming on and sharing so much with us. Is there anything you want to leave us with? Any words of positivity? Anything at all? The floor is yours.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm so grateful to share this space with you, Rachel, outside of racing and get to cultivate this friendship. And I look forward to continuing this. I just want to say thank you to all my Swift racing teammates from Team Rave and all of your support. And thank you for being the most fun team on Swift. Swift Community Live, Nathan and Dave, doing such a great job building community and helping those of us on Swift that are either starting out racing or have been doing it for a long time to feel seen and supported. And yes, don't give up on your dreams. It's okay to go slow.
Exactly. It is okay to go slow. And as you said, surround yourself with positivity, whether that's the people or just your daily practices, whatever it is that brings you joy and happiness. And Molly, this hopefully will bring a smile to a lot of people's faces. So Thank you so much again. and we look forward to keeping up to you with everything.
Thank you so much, Rachel.
Bye.